Family Matters may have brought joy and laughter to millions in the 90s, but life away from the cameras was far from a sitcom. Broken marriages, health struggles, financial collapse, and untimely deaths turned comedy into tragedy. Today, we look back to see where fate has led the stars we once thought had it all. Let's get started. Rosetta Lenoir as Estelle Mother Winslow. Estelle Mother Winslow was the glue that held the family together. Gentle, loving, and unafraid to speak her mind, she became the character that made the Winslow home feel whole. Rosetta Lenoir infused the role with a quiet dignity that made audiences lean in and smile. Her warmth turned Estelle into much more than just a grandmother on screen. Long before she joined Family Matters in 1989, Rosetta had already lived a lifetime on stage and television. Born on August 8, 1911 in New York, she broke barriers on Broadway, appearing in numerous productions at a time when opportunities for black actresses were scarce. She also worked extensively in theater, nurturing young talent through her work as a producer and mentor, building a reputation not just as an actress, but as someone who gave back to the craft. By the time she was cast as Mother Winslow at age 78, her decades of experience shone through every line she delivered. But the final chapters of her life were not easy. Diabetes slowly took away her vision and mobility, forcing her into an existence far removed from the lively performer she had once been. It was a cruel contrast. The actress who had lit up Broadway stages and charmed television audiences now moving slowly in the shadows of her own home. Rosetta passed away on March 17, 2002, at the age of 90, from complications of diabetes. Her net worth was estimated at $3 million, much of it tied to her long career and investments in the theater she loved so dearly. What truly remains, however, is her legacy. Estelle Winslow, a character remembered as the soul of Family Matters, and Rosetta herself, who left behind a path for others to follow. Reginald VelJohnson as Carl Winslow. Carl Winslow was the everyman father. Strict when he had to be, soft-hearted when it mattered most. A hard-working police officer, devoted husband, and exasperated but loving dad, he gave Family Matters its emotional backbone. Played by Reginald VelJohnson, Carl became one of television's most recognizable sitcom dads, balancing authority with humor in a way that felt authentic and deeply human. Born on August 16, 1952, in Queens, New York, VelJohnson had already found his way into Hollywood before Family Matters. He made appearances in hit films like Ghostbusters, 1984, and carved out a memorable spot in Die Hard, 1988, as Sergeant Al Powell, the sympathetic cop who supported Bruce Willis's John McClane from afar. Those roles showcased his ability to play steady, reliable men, the kind of characters audiences could trust. That same quality carried directly into Carl Winslow when the series launched in 1989, a role he would play across 9 seasons and more than 200 episodes. Away from the cameras, VelJohnson's life carried its own weight of challenges. Rumors about his personal life persisted for years, and he chose not to address them, preferring privacy over headlines. He also battled health issues, including diabetes and weight struggles, that at times kept him away from the spotlight. Typecasting brought its own difficulties, too. For many, he was Carl Winslow, and nothing else, a burden that created periods of loneliness and quiet frustration. Yet in 2025, at 73 years old, Reginald VelJohnson is still with us. He lives a modest, grounded life, relying on earnings from real estate in California and Georgia, as well as appearances at fan conventions where the love for Carl Winslow never faded. His net worth is estimated around $5 million. Though he has stepped away from the constant glare of Hollywood, he remains etched in television history as the steadfast father figure whose mix of discipline and heart made Family Matters unforgettable. Michelle Thomas as Myra Monkhouse. Myra Monkhouse brought youthful chaos to Family Matters. She arrived in 1993 at the age of 25, played by Michelle Thomas, and quickly became unforgettable. Myra was lively, dramatic, and hopelessly in love with Steve Urkel. Her jealousy often caused trouble, but her playful energy gave the show a spark that audiences still remember. Michelle Doris Thomas was born on September 23, 1968, in Boston, Massachusetts. Before she became Myra, she was already gaining attention on television for her bright personality and magnetic presence. Landing Family Matters gave her a larger stage, and she embraced the role with charm and humor. Her real life, however, took a painful turn. Michelle was diagnosed with a rare form of stomach cancer, discovered too late for effective treatment. The disease drained her physically, but she never let it erase her smile. She kept working as long as she could, appearing on screen even while undergoing exhausting treatments. At her side was actor Malcolm Jamal Warner, a supportive partner. The two shared a deep bond, but marriage and children, dreams Michelle once spoke of, were stolen from her by illness. When her health declined further, Michelle returned home to her mother. Surrounded by family, she faced her final days with courage and grace. On December 23, 1998, she passed away at just 30 years old, a few days before Christmas. Her net worth was around $500,000, earned from her acting work and royalties. She left no large estates or business ventures behind, but she left something greater. Fans continue to honor her as Myra Monkhouse, a character full of life, and as a young actress who fought bravely until her very last breath. Jo Marie Payton as Harriet Winslow. Harriet Winslow was the strength at the center of Family Matters. Introduced in 1989 when Jo Marie Payton was 39, she became the steady hand and protective heart of the Winslow household. Harriet was firm but caring, a mother who guided her family with both discipline and love. For 8 straight seasons, Jo Marie gave life to the character, shaping her into one of television's most enduring moms. Even when she left the series after creative disputes, her Harriet had already become unforgettable, the soul of the show. Jo Marie Payton was born on August 3, 1950, in Albany, Georgia. Before Family Matters, she had built her career step by step, appearing on stage and television and slowly gaining recognition. The sitcom made her a household name, but she didn't stop there. She went on to prove her versatility by moving into voice acting, with her most iconic work coming as Sugar Mama in The Proud Family. That voice role kept her in the public eye and showed she could make audiences laugh and feel even when she wasn't on screen. Her private life, though, was filled with struggles. Jo Marie went through 3 marriages, and each ended in divorce. The repeated heartbreaks left scars that made her cautious with love and often pushed her into lonely stretches of life. Health issues added another layer of difficulty. High blood pressure and heart problems forced her to step away from acting more than once, reminding her that even a strong woman had limits. Through it all, she leaned on her daughter Chantal, who remained her source of support. In 2025, Jo Marie Payton is 75 years old. She lives more quietly now, far from the constant pressure of Hollywood. Her career earnings and real estate in Georgia give her a net worth of about $4 million. She may no longer stand at the center of television, but her legacy is secure. Sherman Hemsley as Captain Savage. Captain Savage was a brief but memorable guest role on Family Matters in 1994. Played by Sherman Hemsley at the age of 56, the part was small but instantly stood out. Hemsley brought his trademark wit to the character, turning every appearance into a highlight. For fans, it was a reminder of the legendary presence that had already made him famous through The Jeffersons. Sherman Alexander Hemsley was born on February 1, 1938, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Away from the spotlight, his life was far quieter than his comic roles suggested. He never married, had no children, and kept a very close circle of friends. As health issues mounted, lung cancer and high blood pressure, he kept his struggles private, shielding them until it was too late. That silence left his final years shadowed by isolation, a stark contrast to the vibrant man audiences adored. Hemsley died on July 24, 2012, at the age of 74 from lung cancer. His net worth was about $3 million, largely from television royalties and the modest home where he lived. Even after his passing, controversy followed. His will was challenged, and multiple people claimed inheritance rights, delaying his funeral for months. Instead of a quiet farewell, he was caught in legal battles, leaving fans with both sorrow and frustration over the way his final chapter unfolded. Telma Hopkins as Rachel Crawford. Rachel Crawford added warmth and humor to Family Matters. Introduced in 1989 when Telma Hopkins was 41, she played Harriet's sister and became a fixture of the Winslow household during the show's early years. Rachel was funny, caring, and relatable, helping to round out the family dynamic. For Telma, the role brought new recognition in her acting career, following years of success as a singer. Telma Louise Hopkins was born on October 28, 1948, in Louisville, Kentucky. Her on-screen joy did not always mirror her private life. She endured a painful divorce that left her wary of lasting relationships. Tensions with her son, often caused by the demands of her schedule, added to her sense of guilt and even led to periods of mild depression. She had once soared to fame as part of the group Tony Orlando and Dawn, but her acting career, though steady, never reached the same heights. That imbalance, public visibility paired with personal disappointment, gave her life a bittersweet rhythm. In 2025, Telma Hopkins is 77 years old. She continues to work in the industry while living comfortably, with an estimated net worth of $3 million from acting and real estate. Her most enduring mark remains Rachel Crawford, the lively, kind-hearted sister on Family Matters, even as her own life has been shaped by heartbreak, sacrifice, and resilience. Naya Rivera as Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn was a tiny role in Family Matters, played by 5-year-old Naya Rivera in 1992. It lasted only a moment on screen, yet it opened the door to a career that would later define her as one of television's brightest stars. A decade later, she found her true breakthrough in Glee, where she played Santana Lopez with a mix of fire and vulnerability that captured audiences around the world. Naya Marie Rivera was born on January 12, 1987, in Valencia, California. Though her talent pushed her into the spotlight, her personal life revealed a far more fragile side. Her chaotic marriage to Ryan Dorsey ended in divorce, and she spoke candidly about struggles with depression and the difficult decision to have an abortion during the height of Glee. The confidence she projected on screen often masked the instability she lived through privately. Money troubles added even more weight, driving her at one point toward bankruptcy and tying her to a cycle of glamour and debt. Her story ended in tragedy. On July 8, 2020, Naya drowned in Lake Piru at just 33 years old. The circumstances shook the world. She had used her last strength to save her son Josie, pushing him to safety before she disappeared beneath the water. At her death, her net worth was estimated around $5 million, drawn from acting and music despite years of financial strain. Today, she is remembered not only for Glee, but for the haunting image of a mother's final sacrifice, a bittersweet legacy of love and loss. Jaleel White as Steve Urkel. Steve Urkel wasn't supposed to be the star of Family Matters, but everything changed in 1989 when Jaleel White, only 13 years old, walked on screen in suspenders, oversized glasses, and a nasal, "Did I do that?" What began as a side character turned into the center of the show. Audiences fell in love with his nerdy charm, and suddenly Jaleel was everywhere. Magazine covers, lunch boxes, even cartoons. Urkel wasn't just a sitcom character, he was a national craze. Jaleel Ahmed White was born on November 27, 1976, in Culver City, California. His role as Urkel made him famous overnight, but also created the shadow he would wrestle with for the rest of his career. Hollywood couldn't see past the suspenders, even as he tried branching into other work. He lent his voice to Sonic the Hedgehog in the 90s, appeared in shows like Dreamgirls and Dancing with the Stars, and continued taking guest spots on television, yet the label of Urkel clung to him. Behind the scenes, life was turbulent. His ex-girlfriend Bridget Hardy accused him of abuse, pulling him into legal battles and custody fights over their daughter, Samaya. The stress fed into depression, and he often admitted that the role which made him famous also left him trapped. Today, in 2025, Jaleel White is 49 years old. He lives quietly in Los Angeles, indulging his passion for luxury cars and holding on to an estimated $10 million net worth built from syndication royalties and decades of steady work. His paradox remains, adored forever as Urkel, yet still longing to be known as Jaleel. Fred Willard as Vice Principal Mallet. Vice Principal Mallet was a guest role in Family Matters in 1994, but Fred Willard made sure it stood out. At 55, he brought his signature dry humor, turning even small moments into laughs. By then, Willard was already a familiar face, his career spanning television, stage, and film. He had shown in Fernwood Tonight in the late 70s, became a favorite on sketch comedy shows, and went on to steal scenes in Christopher Guest's mockumentaries like Best in Show and A Mighty Wind. Mallet was just another reminder of how easily Willard could make an impression. Fred Willard was born on September 18, 1933, in Shaker Heights, Ohio. His career was filled with success, but his personal life carried shadows. In 2012, he faced a very public arrest that tarnished his name. Then in 2018, he lost his wife Mary Lovell, his partner of more than 40 years. That loss left his home achingly quiet, replacing the laughter that had defined much of his life with silence. On May 15, 2020, Fred Willard passed away of natural causes at 86. His net worth, estimated around $5 million, came from his long list of roles, television royalties, and his modest home in Encino, California. He had lived simply, avoiding extravagance, yet the final years of his life were colored by scandal and grief. Still, audiences choose to remember the joy, the quick wit, the deadpan delivery, the ability to turn a small role into comedy gold. Darius McCrary as Eddie Winslow. Eddie Winslow was the mischievous son, sometimes reckless, but always an essential part of the Winslow family. From 1989, audiences watched him grow up on screen, played by Darius McCrary at just 13 years old. Eddie's charm and teenage antics gave the show a youthful edge, and for nearly a decade, he became a familiar face in living rooms across America. Darius Creston McCrary was born on May 1, 1976, in Walnut, California. While he was beloved as Eddie, his real life was far more turbulent. His marriages ended in public battles, most notably with Tammy Bronner, who accused him of abuse. Court orders kept him away, and custody of his daughter Zoe turned into a painful fight. Alongside the emotional toll came financial collapse. He went from living in luxury to declaring bankruptcy and struggling with debt. Now, in 2025, Darius McCrary is 49 years old. He still appears in small projects, but has never escaped the shadow of Eddie Winslow. His net worth, estimated around $500,000, reflects both the remnants of his acting career and a life marked by instability. For many fans, it is bittersweet to look back on the carefree Eddie while knowing the hardships Darius has endured. Tom Poston as Mr. Looney. Mr. Looney was one of those quirky guest roles that stuck in the memory, played in 1994 by Tom Poston when he was already 73 years old. His comic timing and playful energy made him a welcome addition to Family Matters, even if only for a short stretch. For Poston, it was just another chapter in a long career built on easy humor and an unmistakable presence on television. Thomas Gordon Poston was born on October 17, 1921 in Columbus, Ohio. His career spanned stage, television, and film, with highlights that included decades of sitcom appearances and sketch comedy. But behind the laughter was a private life marked by loss. His first wife, actress Jean Sullivan, died young, leaving a void he never fully filled. His second marriage, to Suzanne Pleshette, brought its own heartbreak as distance eroded their bond. While audiences saw him as a steady comedian, he often wrestled with disappointment when his career narrowed into supporting roles, never quite allowing him the lead opportunities he longed for. On April 30th, 2007, Tom Poston died at 85 from respiratory failure. His net worth was around $10 million, though much of it was consumed by medical costs. He will always be remembered as the witty everyman who could steal a laugh, even as his own life carried more sadness than fans ever imagined. Kellie Shanygne Williams as Laura Winslow. Laura Winslow was bright, clever, and central to the family dynamic. Played by Kellie Shanygne Williams from 1989, also at the age of 13, Laura became a symbol of youthful intelligence and resilience. She was often the voice of reason and the heart of many storylines, making her one of the most beloved characters of the 90s. For Kellie, the role brought national recognition and made her a household name. Kellie Shanygne Williams was born on March 22, 1976, in Washington, D.C. When Family Matters ended, however, she faced the harsh reality of Hollywood. Roles for a grown-up Laura Winslow never came, leaving her sidelined and struggling with rejection. The lack of opportunities led to depression, anxiety, and weight fluctuations that added to her insecurity. Though she found stability in marriage to Hannibal Jackson, the pressures of career setbacks often weighed heavily on her home life. In 2025, Kellie Shanygne Williams is 49 years old. She now lives quietly in Maryland, prioritizing family and community over fame. She drives a family SUV, lives in a comfortable home, and maintains an estimated net worth of $2 million through acting and social work. Laura Winslow remains her defining role, but Kellie has learned to step away from the spotlight, finding peace after years of struggle. Ron Taylor as Darnell Coleman. Darnell Coleman wasn't on Family Matters often, but whenever he appeared in 1990, the character stood out. Played by Ron Taylor at the age of 38, he brought a deep voice and unique presence that gave the show a memorable edge, even in a guest role. Ronald James Taylor was born on October 16, 1952, in Galveston, Texas. Beyond the sitcom, he was admired on stage and television, known for his rich baritone and commanding energy. Yet offstage, his lifelong struggle with weight led to diabetes and high blood pressure, health battles that slowly eroded his strength. He shared a home life with his wife, Deborah Sharp Taylor, and their 2 children, but even love and family couldn't hide the toll of illness. Each performance carried the same passion, but behind the curtain, every step became heavier. On January 16, 2002, Ron Taylor died of a heart attack at just 49 years old. His net worth, about $1.5 million, came from years of stage and television work, along with family assets. Known as both a performer and a mentor, his early passing left a gap that neither his colleagues nor his audience could easily fill. Jaimee Foxworth as Judy Winslow. Judy Winslow was the youngest member of the family when Family Matters began in 1989. Played by 10-year-old Jaimee Foxworth, she was the innocent little sister whose presence helped round out the family dynamic. For 4 seasons, Judy was part of the Winslow story, until her sudden removal left fans questioning why she disappeared without explanation. Jaimee Monet Foxworth was born on December 17, 1979, in Belleville, Illinois. Losing her role at such a young age became a wound that never fully healed. Without steady work, she slipped into addiction, and during her family's financial collapse, entered the adult film industry. The scandal haunted her, transforming the child star once loved by audiences into a tabloid figure. Eventually, Jaimee left that world behind, but the aftermath remained. She faced damaged relationships, the burden of raising her son alone, and the shadow of a reputation forever tied to choices made in desperation. In 2025, Jaimee Foxworth is 46 years old. She lives a modest, quiet life, focusing on family and small community work. Her net worth is estimated at only $50,000. Though her career never recovered, her survival itself tells a story of rebuilding after destruction, and of a woman who endured what fame and misfortune had taken from her. Barry Jenner as Lieutenant Lou Murtaugh. Lieutenant Lou Murtaugh was a recurring face in Family Matters starting in 1990. Played by Barry Jenner at age 49, he gave the show a touch of authority and humor, turning a supporting role into something fans could rely on whenever he appeared. Barry Francis Jenner was born on January 14, 1941, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His career was steady, with many appearances across television, but he never reached the level of stardom he had once hoped for. The frustration of limited opportunities weighed heavily on him, leaving him with an undercurrent of disappointment. Away from the cameras, that same discontent spilled into his personal life. His marriage to Suzanne Hunt carried strains of financial stress and emotional distance. Though audiences saw him as reliable and consistent, he lived with the quiet anxiety of a man who worried about his future more than he admitted. On August 9, 2016, Barry Jenner passed away at 75 after a battle with leukemia. His net worth was about $1 million, much of it tied to acting and a modest home. The disease consumed his final years, draining his finances and his health. Fans remember him not as the man worn down by illness, but as the familiar face who brought life to Lieutenant Murtaugh and countless other roles on television. Bryton James as Richie Crawford. Richie Crawford entered Family Matters in 1990 when Bryton James was only 4 years old. As Harriet's nephew, he brought both joy and bittersweet emotion to the Winslow household after his father's death. Mischievous yet lovable, Richie grew up on screen, becoming one of the show's most enduring child characters. For viewers, he was the little boy who slowly matured before their eyes, cementing Bryton as a familiar presence across 9 seasons. Bryton Eric McClure, better known by his stage name Bryton James, was born on August 17, 1986, in Lakewood, California. His personal life, however, was marked early by tragedy. He lost his father when he was still a child. That loss became a scar that never faded, even as fame arrived. Behind the cheerful character he played, Bryton often carried the weight of loneliness, magnified by the pressures of growing up famous. As an adult, he built a successful career beyond Family Matters. His long-running role on The Young and the Restless earned him multiple Daytime Emmy Awards and confirmed his place as a respected soap actor. He also found steady work in voice acting, lending his voice to animated series such as Young Justice. Yet in interviews, Bryton admitted that no amount of recognition fully erased the sense of emptiness left by his early loss. Failed relationships, including his brief marriage to Ashley Jones in 2017, added to his private regrets, leaving him still searching for the family stability he never truly had. In 2025, Bryton James is 39 years old. He lives quietly, focusing on acting, voice work, and a handful of real estate investments in Los Angeles. With a net worth of about $2 million, he avoids scandal and embraces a modest lifestyle. But even with career success and stability, the shadow of his childhood loss lingers, an unseen weight behind the smiling boy fans once adored as Richie Crawford. Behind the laughter were lives filled with struggle and surprise. Which one of their stories shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to discover more untold journeys from the stars you thought you knew.